Yo, yo, what's going on, everybody? Back with another watch list. First off, I will start off by mentioning the pre-market broadcast this morning in Investors Underground. It was a free one. They typically do that on Tuesdays, and I hopped on with a couple of the guys and shared my plans. With similar plans to what we had on the watch list from the night before, and most of these names were gapping in the direction that were favorable for my plans. So coming into into the market open about 8:45, we hopped on the mic. So I put it's the first link down in the description. Goes to the Investors Underground website, or I can link it to my Twitter there. I'm not sure if the IU link will let you click through, or if that one's protected, even though it was a free version. But you can click on that Twitter link, and I hop on there around 14 and a half minutes, and I talked for, I don't know, a few minutes there. I went over my plans, and we had VIOT, WLF, MBIO, VOR, BTBT. Bunch of the names worked perfectly. TOST was one of the ones that unfortunately did not work and stopped me out, but we will go over my executions nonetheless, and a little bit of a watch list for tomorrow. Currently have a couple positions that I will mention overnight, and then we will skedaddle. So, might as well start off with VOR. I will repeat some of the comments I made on broadcast this morning, but I do highly recommend, if you just want to hear what I said, skip to 14 and a half minutes. I start talking and listen through that, and then come back to this video. But VOR has a history of having trouble with day twos. What's going on, Jeff? Number one again. VOR trouble with day twos, where we get that day one gap, failed follow through, breakout, day two gap, failed follow through, one day breakout, day two gap, failed follow through. So it's doing the exact same thing. Plan on broadcast was this trouble here in pre-market, lining up with prior day's highs of 320. I knew a lot of shorts, including myself, typically use that 320 as a stop out level. So I had put on a starter, was going to let this thing go buck 50 against me. It didn't really matter. And then once it pushed through 320s and slammed right back down, once VWAP stayed heavy, I scaled, used high day as a stop, was full size 1 hour risk, covered into the flush towards green to red, rescaled once it was going red, covered that immediate flush, was a bit oversized, but probably 1.5 hour there. Size back down to a small core position, re-hit it, covered, re-hit it, and then stopped out the rest right around that 11 a.m. window. It is typically when I have to get off desk. There was no reason for a cover. This is, I think, still swing potential. Not a great history of gap downs and day twos, but really nice heaviness there throughout the day. Let's go through WLF. This one here was the biggest trade of the day. Very clean. 1, 2, 3 days of extension, gap up, parabolic. We got the parabolic in pre-market that I reacted to. If we take off the volume here from the open, it becomes pretty obvious where it starts to speed up, speed up, speed up. Volume starts to match it. Once it tops out, I just hit some starter size. Again, this thing can go $1, $2 against me, and I still wouldn't cover, just a starting point. But it ended up being the high, so too bad I didn't go full size because I was never down on that position. Chop, 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 consolidation, and then the plan on the watch list and the broadcast was opening range lows. We got this 1 minute breakdown, and then it stuffed through high day, and then once it broke that low, I shorted, set a stop here in the 330s. Looked pretty strong, got stuffed again, started to grind back. Was a bit nervous, but stuck to my plan, let it do its thing. The only real issue I have is not scaling through like over here or even low a day or something. I think there was opportunity to pyramid into that position and really add to that winner. But I was full size with about 1.5R risk off of a high a day. So I felt like adding here, I didn't really have a new risk level to use. So I just kept that position and let it work. Covered along the way. And then once we got the higher low confirmation completely sized out, was locking into like fifths basically. Sideways throughout the rest of the day. I tried to, this was a fairly expensive borrow, like I think 1 or 2% of the stock price, which isn't ideal, but the opportunity was worth it. And then when I went back to look for swing shares towards the close, I just couldn't get any. There wasn't any available, so I couldn't swing this overnight, but I still think there's opportunity, whether it gaps down. It hasn't gone red yet. So I think there's room back down to like that 190 line I have drawn right over here is right where that 4 EMA is, and we've got prior support. So I think this thing goes sub 2, and similar to how MBIO traded today, where you get that big move, big pullback. This is kind of like what Wolf did, pulls back, and then chops the rest of the day sideways. And then you get that gap down, so this is where like the overnights could be covering into weakness. Then you get that shove up into red to green that stuffs that I would be looking for on Wolf. So the closer it is to red to green, the more I like it, and then look for it to fizzle. So that's the plan on Wolf. Might as well just touch on MBIO while we're on it. But we got this little push, hard crack, shorted it versus high day risk, was 1R off of highs, hit a hotkey. It swiped back, but again, respecting risk, and it starts to pull, cover into the speed up, rescale, looks like it's rounding over and just didn't, was a bit early on that cover, ended up going much lower, but again, I was going to be gone by about 11 anyways, so I wouldn't have caught much more than that. BTBT. Gap, starts to speed up, volume starts to come in, and the parabolic here off the open was the telltale sign for me. Looking left into pre-market levels was right what I was, it was what I was using here as a guide, so we got that parabolic. I lean on it versus high day risk, stop out, was only partial size, was not full size here, about a quarter position, waiting for a lower high failed fall through setup. And then what we got was actually a high day clear out, and then hard crack, lower highs confirm, failed fall through here under 409, 410, hence these scales, and then was just patient with that position until it starts to go sideways. Tried it one more time here, looking for that low a day rollover, and it just didn't come, so covered that one. BSGM had some news this morning, if you recall, from back over here. Was looking at it as like a China pump. It started to really speed up here. Thanks, Jeff. Killer trade on Wolf. Thanks, Gus. Blue. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Yeah, it was a good day. A lot of stuff worked. They're not all like that. So yeah, BSGM I had on watch since back here, and it started hitting some price alerts, starting to speed up there. Had some news this morning, so I kind of had it on radar. It's not really an active idea, but definitely some increased volume. And then this higher low trend broke right here. Ended up being the low a day. So it was a chase, but with these liquidation plays, they never uptick. So I was basically looking for it to stay heavy under those mid sevens and not reclaim that trend line. And once it did, this pull and then higher lows, it's definitely not staying heavy like it should have, like this. So I just covered it for a small loss. RGC was a loss. This one here was a full-size loss. Trading the same plans. We're looking for pops off the open and joining that. So right here we got a speed up in pre-market. Spread got a little wonky, so when I hit my hotkey, it didn't fill me till quite a bit lower. Then we got market open, failed to follow through under opening range lows, was risking versus highs, added right here, moved risk down to this double top here, the lower highs. So I ended up cutting that one. Smaller loss, but ended up not really working anyways. And Toast was that breakout idea. Now this thing's wicked me out on both ends of this channel when I was trying to short it over here and trying to buy it over here. And it stopped me out on both ends, so I'm taking it off radar at this point. But we got that break through 45 half, set a stop at low a day, and it just didn't work. VIOT, big ol' gap. I wanted to short a gap as long as volume was staying consistent, and that's what we got. So off of the open, again, about a quarter size, stopped it out. This one here was a full size loss because we finally got a setup where it blew out through highs a day, set a low, set a lower high, failed to follow through sub VWAP. So this is finally a setup that I'm comfortable leaning on, and set a stop at highs. Ended up being the dead top, which was lovely, and that was a nice piece of that volume candle. And ended up rolling over rather nicely. So I was taking a lunch break right around here, and looked like it was going red. It's definitely broken. I don't think this is going to get back over $3. So I was leaning it. Once it did go red, was leaning on it again, covered it, saw this bidder step in, so I had to swipe. And then we did get a little bit up here in after hours, so I'm currently still swinging a portion of that position, but we will see. Ideally just a gap down and not have to worry about it. Workhorse, still have a position on this one, was right here. If you look at the daily, it wasn't on my watch list yesterday, just because we finally got some range, so it hit my percent gainer scan. And we got this big parabolic. I was waiting. Hard crack, lower high. Short it, risk high a day, get stopped out, continues to go higher. And there was no reason to short it as long as it's above this trend. Once it failed here, I was already gone and off the desk. But got this little VWAP fail here into close, so put a position on versus high a day risk, and currently swinging that one. So far, those short swings are both gapping up right now, so I'll probably cover them if they gap up and then just look to reattack with some new borrows, but we will see. Nice green day nonetheless. Was cutting losers quick and letting those winners run. Wolf was definitely a standout. This one here was the main winner of the day. Was about 4R on this one, and then VOR was about a 2R trade here, and then the other ones, BTBT was a 1R win in total after taking a loss and then taking that one. And then the other ones, VIOT was the only full-size loss. The other ones were all just starters. So really happy with how I managed my losses today. Obviously, when stuff works as good as Wolf, and like once it's on this sort of bounces fail, but you could have made that argument here where you're shorting these bounces and then you're a bit nervous into this VWAP reclaim. That could have happened right here, but in hindsight, obviously just wish I scaled and never covered it, but always could do better. That's the tough part when, oh shoot, I clicked the wrong Wolf, there we go. That's the thing with trading, is the losses hurt and the wins are never good enough. Wolf being reg show, change your thought process on it. Yeah, for sure. I mentioned that in the broadcast as well. If you guys can see the chat here, I will link it again. Right here. So click on that link there, goes to my Twitter, and I was on the pre-market broadcast about 14 and a half minutes there, so if you want to skip ahead. But when I talk about Wolf, that was one of my thoughts, was that it was reg show. The borrows were a bit expensive, and it was reg show. Hence the reason I wasn't like proactively covering. I took the approach of short and set a stop and forget it. Instead of short, maybe cover a pull, maybe re-short versus highs, maybe cover, maybe re-hit through lows a day, where I'm usually a bit more active on something like VOR, for example. When I'm short, cover, short, cover, short, cover. Like I'm a bit more active on pops and dips. Where something like Wolf, once I'm short and once I'm covering, it was just one side of the trade. Because if the borrow is cheap, it's still kind of in the back of my head that it's reg show and I'm going to have to borrow again. And it's just like adding loss to the win that's already working. But it is a cost of doing business. But it's even more so when the borrow is a bit expensive, because I don't want to have to pay that twice. So yeah, it was in my head. Sam had a good trade on Wolf, covered too soon. Really nice failed fall through setups lately, enjoying this market. Figured yesterday's highs would have put in more of a fight for support on Wolf. Yesterday's highs 270. I mean, it did bottom there. That's typically why I have the 4 EMA. I can throw it on this chart. Just let me see. So this is the 4 EMA, and that's what I use to gauge extension on the daily chart. I have it on my other chart up there on the other screen. But something like VOR, for example, this one here is not as extended, so covering towards lows, I don't hate. Something like Viot, covering here as it goes red, is not quite as extended. Something like Wolf, I like for a swing, because like it's at 260, it's still got room down to 190, and once it's at 270, 280, a short in the threes and covering at 280, like the risk reward is shot on something like that. So if I'm short here on an opening range breakdown, call it 310, risking 330, maybe 340 with slippage, risking 30 cents. If I'm covering into 270, 280, that's only a 1-to-1 trade. So yes, these red days have like a 70% win rate. So taking a 1-to-1, you will be marginally profitable, but not letting those winners work to what's the word? To like multiples of your R. So if you're risking 30 cents, I'm looking for at least 60 cents, which is down here towards 250s. That's why I had a bunch of covers down there. Because then you have a 70% win rate and you're up 2-to-1. So usually like max potential on these is like 3-to-1, which would have been that red move. But yeah, I'll look to reattack it tomorrow if it's red. Blue, you betcha. Julian, what's going on? So yeah, those were the trades from today. Proc could argue this was the trade of the day by not touching it. I saw a bunch of buds that were fighting this thing all day, and I just don't really see the draw to it. So with the prior close sub 75, it's at 60 cents. So once it's over $1, you get those tight halt bands. Just doesn't look like a whole lot of fun to trade. So ideally this thing gaps up, and we'll look for a failed fall through op on it. Overextended gap up, higher the better. We will see. BTCS, this one here, put out an offering in after hours, so anyone long into the close looking for that gapper through that 540s breakout here, looking left, right through there. You can see once it's red, it has some pretty nice pulls. Even right here on the gap up, we're open around 510, pulled to $4. So even on that day, it's got some nice range. So if this is going to open around 5-ish, Baby Shelf was just over 5 to unlock for its highest close the last 60 days. It's 75 mil publicly held shares, so it's right around like 5-ish, and they closed it above it. So prior close here around 6. So far gapping down, but pops up towards this low 5s would definitely be a watch. The daily is extended and it's got a nice history of pullbacks. And the 4 EMA, I don't see it, but it's somewhere in there in the mid 3s, so I think there's still room lower on that one. EDHL, China Pump, getting messages on that one from WhatsApp groups, so we'll keep this one on watch. PHH gave it up today. I had mentioned this one maybe 2 or 3 days ago. I think it was at the end of last week. For a watch for an 80% down day, and got it there today. Was just a bit too slow on the trigger. I saw this candle as it was going into a halt, and I didn't have anything borrowed, so reactively hitting short buttons, but nothing's gonna fill if I don't have shares to short. So I couldn't fill anything, and then it gapped down all the way to $7. So I ended up missing that one, unfortunately. ABVC, daily starting to extend, bit of a lighter trader. I'd like this one to get higher. SRFM, I think plays out similar to ASST. We get those couple days there, and then get that pop off the open into prior resistance, and then fizzles out. So I think we could get that here on SRFM. Pulls back, maybe pops up into prior resistance towards 7s, and then fizzles back. With this daily, it is just starting to break out here through 560s, so I would love it if it continued higher tomorrow, but not really a needle mover. It wouldn't be high conviction. Zap, same kind of idea. Pops into prior resistance, but I think the main watches is going to be Viat that briefly went red today. So I will look for pops towards 3. If this is gapping up, I will cover it and then look to reattack with a fresh head. Wolf, this one hasn't gone red. If it's red, first red day idea for a sub 2 fail. Workhorse, again, if this is gapping up, which it is right now, I will cover it and then look to reattack with a similar setup to Viat. So Workhorse has got tons of liquidity. It trades pretty thick. It doesn't really swipe back and forth, so I think it'll be a good opportunity to size into. Borrows are super cheap. Proc, this is up 500%. I mean, the comment of how much higher can it go never really ages well, but how much higher can it go? Amazing trade on Wolf. Thank you, Julian. BTCS with that offering now, big ATM. I think that probably fails off of 5s. But main watches, I think, are Wolf, Viat, and Workhorse. And then back burners are going to be Proc, BTCS. I think so. Let's see what Nate's got on watch, and then if any questions come in, I can touch on those. Otherwise, Man, CoreWeave, that thing shook me out. Damn it. Right there on that bounce day. I said it too when I covered it. I said it on this watch list. I said that could end up being the top, but it was coming back over that trend line, reclaiming moving averages. I just had to be safe, and this is the move I was looking for. Bugger. Smoked. That's insane. Round trips from pre-market, rips to the moon, and then round trips again. Wild. Gosh, that CoreWeave daily just looks so clean. Why'd they gotta bounce it? It just looks so nice. So frustrating. Julian tried to short BTCS and got burned. That's too bad. I'm sorry to hear that. It's definitely super choppy. I find that with a lot of Bitcoin names, though. I've never really done that well on that sector. TSSI, similar setup to that CoreWeave. If it loses 26, it should get hit. Not a ton of volume, but it looks like it should trade tight enough to warrant a trade. I don't hate that setup for 26s. I think there's room lower. Like the next moving average is 2480. So it's breaking below the 10, and the 20 is just below 25. So there's probably room for a trade there. BTBT, that one hasn't gone red yet either. There's the 4 EMA. So if this is gapping down, I probably should have shorted this thing for overnight too. Damn it. I think this probably gaps down. So probably look to short that one too. Oh wow, hood. That looks like it's gonna fall apart. Look at that base. That's gonna get wrecked, looks like. Same setup as Tizzy. Under 90. Looks like it gets hit. I feel like that overnight on Workhorse is probably a mistake. Just doesn't really... Like, I'm fine swinging like Viat, for example, because it's a gap up, close below its open. It's like a precursor to a red day. Or Workhorse is still very much front side. There's really no reason to be short this other than like a reactive parabolic. So that's probably a mistake. I could put that in my trade recap as a mistake. Kerr for a liquidity trap. Ask Gus Bus. Yeah, if that's what you trade. I think I'm going to focus on more of those short ideas on those other overextended names. But if this is a setup you trade, I mean, that's the setup. It is a liquidity trap, possible T+1 tomorrow, but I just don't think it's A grade like these other setups are for failed fall through first red days. Yeah, Blue, I think BTBT is a good idea. I kind of forgot about it until I looked at BTCS. But you could put Wolf, Viat, BTBT, VOR. I think that was it. Everything that ran that I was looking for overextension pullbacks that have now closed below their open. They've got enough bag holders overhead that pops should get sold until it resets, tests back to the 4 EMA, and then starts to choose its next direction. How long have you been trading? Probably coming up on 6 years. I had started reading like the Sykes books and stuff at the end of 2018, and I paper traded for a while and I didn't have any mentorship or anything. And then in 2019, in like August or so, I started talking with Huddy and Roland, and then I signed up for the Sykes Challenge in 2019. I was there for about a year and a half or so, and then I went over to IU, and then I never left IU. Does Sophie look like it is exhausting? Named after a female, it sounds exhausting. Don't ban me. Don't ban me. No, I don't know what to do with that. Yeah, I don't know what to do with that. It's not really extended enough, especially for a large cap. Yeah, it could go higher. I think it's 50-50 whether you buy it or sell it tomorrow. I don't know. I'm gonna stick with typically when I'm like looking at stuff like this, like I'm reaching, where I need to you need to look for names that are shouting at you like this is a trade, not look so hard to try and find a setup. Typically they shout out at you. Discovered my channel on Twitter. If you do this daily, I'm gonna learn a lot. Ha, nice. Good to hear. Post it on Twitter. Give me some retweets and share it and stuff, and get some more viewers on here. I'll repost it. I appreciate the exposure, so if you guys get some value, I'd appreciate it if you post the link somewhere. But I'm going to stick to the names that I shorted today. I'll look at Wolf, Viat, BTBT, Workhorse. Those will be my main watches. Tizzy and Hood, I think, could be back burner swings where I just hit a hotkey, short it through that crack, risk high a day, and let it work if it's going to work, or stop me out if it's going to stop me out. But I like those the looks on those ones. And yeah, Proc I'll keep an eye on, but it's not really like a high conviction setup. It'll be those other ones. But I'm going to wrap it up there, guys. Right before midnight Eastern. Sorry I was a bit late today, but we got through it. So I will close it out there. That's my watches for tomorrow. Hope you guys had a great day. If you did not, don't feel like you need to make that money tomorrow. Just use the action to learn. Someone's good day is someone else's bad day. So don't have any FOMO or anything going into the rest of the week. So take it easy, guys. Trade them well. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.